So I'm interested actually to know how many of the attendees right now have actually taken an exam before, whether it's the CSWA or another exam. Uh, Let us know in the chat. I mean, it would be cool to see if anyone has any experience with the certification program before. That would be really interesting.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
My name is Bekalu and I am the co-host of this preparation CSWA preparation tips. And nice to meet you, Engineer Yahya.
Nice to meet you
I don't
too.
think we have met before.
I mean, we're meeting now virtually.
Yeah. And we are happy that you are here. And I think only one person is attending, so we're gonna have to wait for them a little bit more.
No
Until then, I
problem.
have taken 3 certificates until now.
That's good. Do you mind me asking which certificates?
The associate ones, the CAD design associate, additive
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing, and I think the one is sustainability. I think.
Working sustainability. Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. Um, are you planning on taking any other exams in the future? Maybe the CSWP or something?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you should
planning
definitely
to
work on
take
that.
the professionals.
Good, good. I mean, if there's anything I can help with, let me know. Um, we can maybe even make another session in the future for CSWP preparation. Why not?
100%. Yeah, we're gonna have a session on the professional ones. So
Yeah. If anyone else has also any experience with the certification program, if they took another exam, um, if they like were preparing for the CSWA or any other exam, let us know in the chat. I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, we've got someone here with the additive manufacturer. Yep, that's a nice exam. That was one of the early exams that I took actually. It was really interesting because not only does it cover the commands inside of SolidWorks that help with 3D printing, but it also covers the technology itself and how you would design or make sure your design is made in such a way that can be 3D printed. So it was really an interesting exam to take. Cool. Oh yeah, well, if you're preparing for the CSWA, then you're in the right place. Um, I'm actually going to give you a small hint about what you wrote. So you wrote CSWA MD. There's actually a small hint in our session about that thing. So stay tuned for that. Cool. By the way, how many of you are students and how many of you are graduates who have like finished school or finished university? I'd love to know that as well. So in case you guys don't know, I just finished university last year. So I graduated in August 2024. Uh, it's actually about a year now that I've graduated. So yeah, how? Okay, we've got another fresh graduate as well. Cool, nice. Multiple graduates. Okay, cool. What about you, Mikhailo? Are you a graduate or still a student? We've got a second year student in the chat as well. That's cool. I mean, it's better to be younger, of course, because the earlier you know about these programs, which we're going to talk about in today's session, the better it is because you have a long way ahead uh, to get more experience and to take more and more certifications to prove your skills in SolidWorks. So cool. Ooh, 2019 graduate, cool. I mean, it's not really old. We can call you the experienced one. So you might be the experienced one in the group. That's cool. And we also have a fourth year student. That's amazing. Okay. So what do you guys think? Would you like to wait for some time more or would you like to start right away? We have another one who graduated like 4 years ago. So cool.
So yeah, it would be good if
Mhm.
we start. We have about 12 attendees now.
I'm sorry.
What do you
How
think?
many minutes from now?
12 attendees. We have 12 attendees now.
Okay. Would you like us to start right now? That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just share my screen and we will get started. Okay. You should all be seeing my screen right now. Perfect. So, welcome everybody to today's session. The session is titled "The CSWA Preparation Tips from an Expert." That's supposed to be me. So, first things first, massive shout out to both Johannes and Bikalu for organizing this session. Both of them leading and co-leading the Addis Ababa SOLIDWORKS user group. Uh, this session would not have been possible without them. So massive shout out to them. And let's get started with the session. So here's a bit of an introduction about myself in case someone here doesn't know me. I started using SolidWorks back when I was in school. I was 14 years old back then, and for me it started as like a bit of a hobby. It was like an interesting design tool, not really a mechanical design tool because I really didn't understand mechanical design back then. And then as the years went by, I got into engineering university, and that's when I started using SolidWorks for real mechanical design stuff. Um, and throughout that time, I was most of the time learning by myself. So, for example, the CSWA exam, when I took it, it was like 3 years after starting using SolidWorks, just because I didn't even know they even existed. So part of being in the online communities is uh, spreading the knowledge about these programs, like the certification program and other programs as well. And that's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to uh, give you like some tips and tricks about the exam, give you some knowledge about the exam in case you are interested in taking it in the future and proving your skills. Okay, that's pretty much the summary of all those things on the slides right now. So let's get started with our agenda. So we're going to start by talking about what the CSWA even is, what the exam is, who is it for, why should we even care about taking that exam, and then we're going to talk about the exam topics, what the exam covers, what are the things that I should know before taking the exam or in preparation for the exam. And then we're going to talk about some tips and tricks for you to take into consideration either while preparing for the exam or while taking the exam or even in your day-to-day design life. When you're designing anything inside of SolidWorks, I believe these tips and tricks will be pretty useful to you guys. So we're then going to jump to the tester software that we take the exam on. We're going to take like a tour in the software to show you how to install it, how to launch it, how to log in, and so on. And at the very end, we're going to tell you, okay, when you take the exam, and hopefully all of you take it and succeed and pass the exam, what's the next step? Okay, sounds good? Let's get started. So first things first, what's the CSWA? Okay, so the CSWA, it's actually the title that you get when you pass the exam. So when you pass the exam, you become a certified SolidWorks associate. So this includes many different things. It includes the level of the exam, which is in this case associate. So you're certified in software called SolidWorks at the level of associate because there are multiple levels of exams. There's associate, professional, expert, and so on. So this is the associate level. And although this exam technically is called the CSWA CAD design exam, we generally just refer to it as CSWA because it's the most famous associate level exam. There are others. There's like the associate level simulation, additive manufacturing, sustainable design, as some of the attendees here have. But this is the most famous one of them. So when we just say CSWA, that's usually what we mean. We mean the CAD design exam. Okay, and what the official statement is that this exam is generally for beginners and students who have between like 6 to 9 months of experience with SolidWorks. But this isn't a rule. Okay, you don't have to follow this time from 6 to 9 months, because I've personally seen people take the CSWA exam and pass it way before 6 months, like in 3 months or maybe even less. And others, like me, I took it after 3 years of using SolidWorks. So it's not really a measurement of time, but it's a measurement of experience. And this is what we're going to focus on in the next bit of this session. But remember this, it's not really about the time, it's about how well you use that time and how experienced you are in the software. Okay, now, if you ask me, this exam is not cheap. It's like 3 hours long, so it's going to take some time and money, and definitely it's going to also take some effort. Why should I be interested in taking an exam like that? And when I think about that question, there are three things that come to mind. The first thing is, let's say, for example, I'm trying to apply for a job, okay? What's the best way to showcase my skill? Is it to like sit in front of them, open SolidWorks and start designing in front of them and show them how skillful I am? Or is it easier and better to show them a proof of me passing an exam? That exam is not made by me or you or anybody, it's made by SolidWorks, the company that actually created the software we're using, and that exam is proctored by them. It's the same exam for all users of SolidWorks all over the world, and it's a way to benchmark myself across the whole 8 million SolidWorks users. So right now, there's more than 8 million SolidWorks users all over the world. When I say that, hey, there's only like 600,000 CSWA holders all over the world, that means that I'm one of 600,000 over 8 million. That's a very big accomplishment. And the better I am, the higher the accomplishment is, or the better it is. So it's not obviously going to get you a job on its own, but it's at least maybe going to guarantee like an interview, or make your chances a bit better with the interviewer to say or to prove to them in a very short time that, hey, I've got the skills to not just learn, but also use the software in a way that showcases that skill that I have. And the measurement for something like that is a standard created by SolidWorks itself. Okay, and the other thing is, these exams, they don't only test you in SolidWorks, they also test you in industry knowledge. So for example, if I'm taking an exam, let's say about CAD design. So it's not just about create an extrusion, add some fillets, put some holes, add some chamfers, call it a day. It's also going to test me in things like, can you read a drawing? If I give you a couple of dimensions, would you be able to decipher them and understand what is what and which dimension goes where and so on? If I give you like a hole call out, would you understand how to create that hole inside of SolidWorks or not, and so on? And the same goes for pretty much any other exam. Let's say like the sheet metal exam. If you don't know about the K factor and the calculation of bend radius and stuff like that, you're not going to be able to solve the exam, because the exam, it does test you inside of SolidWorks, but it also tests your industry knowledge that you must have as like practical and theoretical knowledge. So both of these are well balanced in the SolidWorks exams. So to sum it all up, whether you're a student or whether you are a graduate, it's giving you a better chance to showcase yourself at any opportunity to get a job or even an internship. Okay, so this is like a quick summary of why it is important in my eyes. Okay, now here's a bit of a disclaimer. So someone in the chat, let me check, it was Beeminent. I hope I didn't pronounce your name wrong. He mentioned that he is preparing for a CSWA MD or mechanical design. So he's actually not wrong, but also not right, because we used to have that exam before. There used to be an exam called CSWA mechanical design. There was also a CSWP mechanical design and a CSWE mechanical design, professional and expert. Okay, but there was also another exam. So these were for SolidWorks desktop. There was another one for 3D Experience SolidWorks, which is SolidWorks connected to the cloud or to the 3D Experience platform. So there were both of these exams side by side. They kinda tested you in the same things and at the same level, but on different software. So in June 2024, which was just like last year, they discontinued both of those and created a new exam, the CSWA CAD design, and the same thing for the professional and expert CAD design, where it's the same exam for both software, whether you're using SolidWorks or SolidWorks Connected, which is also known as 3D Experience SolidWorks. Either way, it's the same exam for both users, and it's testing you in the same set of skills. Okay, so don't worry if you had the CSWA mechanical design certification, it's still valid. All they did is just renamed it, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's see if I want to learn more about about any exam, not just the CSWA exam. The best choice I have is to go to the main source, and in this case, the main source is the official SolidWorks certification website. Okay, so if you go to like solidworks.com/certification, it's going to take you to the whole certification website. But by the way, if you want to go directly to the CSWA webpage, you can type solidworks.com/CSWA, and that is going to take you directly to the CSWA website, where you can scroll a bit downwards, and there you're going to find a bit more information about the exam. It starts with like, what are the essential courses that you should take? What's the oldest version of SolidWorks that you can use to take that exam? In this case, 2011. I don't think anyone here is using 2011. Let me know in the chat which version of SolidWorks or which release of SolidWorks you're using. Personally, I'm using SolidWorks 2025 SP3, which was just released a couple of weeks ago. So that's the latest edition. But yeah, I'm interested to see which edition or which releases of SolidWorks you guys are using. But this might not be really important for this exam, but for other exams, it might be like 2018 or maybe something like that. So if you're using any older version than that, when the exam gives you part files to use, you're not actually going to be able to use those files or open them inside of SolidWorks. So that's going to be an issue. So that's why you must make sure that you actually have that version or higher, okay, that release or higher. As for the other information, it's things like the exam duration, how much you have to score to pass, stuff like that. But the main thing here is the sample exam. Okay, you see that sample exam button? We're going to get back to it at the end of the session, so remember it. But this is where you can go to get the sample exam of the CSWA. Okay. Okay, let's continue. If we continue scrolling a bit down, a bit more in the website, here is we're going to find the exam information or an exam info part, which is a section that includes all the different commands and topics that the exam covers. So, for example, you find here things like sketch entities, lines, rectangles, circles, arcs, ellipses, and center lines. So, for example, it doesn't really mention polygons. It doesn't mention like splines. So these are things that will not be covered in the exam. Okay. It also mentions things like standard mates, coincident, parallel, perpendicular, stuff like that. It doesn't mention any other mates, so you don't actually need advanced mates or mechanical mates for this exam. You can know them, you can use them, but this is the bare minimum that you must have in terms of knowledge and hands-on knowledge, just theoretical, but it has to be hands-on on the software and able to sit for the exam, because the exam is going to it's going to test you in pretty much all of these different things. Okay. So now let's talk about the exam. Now let's start by what the exam covers. So it starts by a couple of questions of like general knowledge about CAD design and drawing views, stuff like that, and then it gets to the part where you actually open SolidWorks and start designing. So we're gonna call this part the part modeling section of the exam. And personally, what I would think most people would do is just when they see the question, they would just open SolidWorks and go straight ahead and start answering, which isn't wrong, but it increases your chances of doing mistakes or making mistakes. So what I would suggest is to do this. First, start by looking at the questions. Not just this question, but pretty much all the questions. Okay, this is like the interface of the CSWA exam inside of the virtual tester. You're gonna find multiple items. You're gonna find like the timer at the bottom. You're gonna find at the top left, it tells you which question out of how many. Also, there's this box on the left for like the text, which is the question itself, text form. We also have the box on the right, upper right, which is where the images and the figures go. And then in the bottom or like the middle section, that's where your choices or the answers would be. But there's two buttons on either side, the previous question and the next question, and these are always activated. You can just start the exam and just scroll through all 14 of these questions and just check what the exam expects you to do. So, okay, so here it wants me to design this, and then it wants me to change it in this way or modify it in that way, and so on. So it's going to give you a better understanding of what the exam is going to ask you to do, not just in this question, but in other questions coming up as well. Okay, and it's really important to take that into consideration when taking the exam, because it tells you more about the design intent of the exam. So what design intent means is the reason why you're creating the design in that specific way, okay? And the way you create that design so that if you want to modify it in some way in the future, it's very easy to modify. You don't need to delete anything. You don't need to like remove anything. All you have to do is just add some modifications, change some parameters, change some values, change some dimensions, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so that's the first thing. Just take some time to look at the questions, understand what the exam as a whole wants you to do. The next thing, which is technically you can skip it and you can start going ahead to the modeling part, but what I usually find is that if you don't set the units correctly at the beginning, it becomes very, very hard to modify them in a correct way later on. Because let's say I go to the bottom right corner in the status bar and forget to change that units. So the units might be like, in this case, millimeters, grams, and seconds, and the exam might want it in like inch, pound, and second. So if I enter like a dimension to be like 100 millimeters, okay, and then I realize, oh, it actually should be 100 inches. When I change the units from millimeters to inches, it's not actually going to change the units, it's going to convert the units. So 100 millimeters, how many inches is that? It's going to be like, I don't know, like maybe like 50 or 5 inches, whatever. And then it's just going to convert the dimension from 100 millimeters to whatever inches it should be. I think it's like 20 or something. So yeah, so that's pretty much how it's going to be. It's not going to change, like swap the unit. It's going to convert the value. Okay, so that's why it's really important to do it at the very beginning, because otherwise you'd have to go back again to every sketch and modify it, or you can like do a sneaky thing and use the scale command, but that's not going to edit your sketches or your features. It's still going to have the old big dimensions or the small dimensions, however it may be, but it's just going to add another feature to your feature tree to grow or shrink your model as needed. Okay, so remember, make sure you have the right units set at the very beginning. Now, the next step is optional. It's not 100% optional. It's optional to do it right now. I would prefer you to do it, which is to add the materials, to specify the material. It doesn't really affect the model itself right now, so you can do it at the very end of the designing process. But it's since we're in this like preparation phase, it's good to pretty much set everything, set the units, set the material, and so on. And speaking of setting things, it's time to set your variables. So when we talk about variables, we're talking about like symbols that have a value associated to them, where you can use those symbols in multiple parts of your model, in multiple areas, to link everything to that single variable or that single symbol. So if you in the future change that variable, all of these different dimensions would change as well. So for example, if I have like a hole, its diameter is like 10 inches, and I have another hole somewhere else in another sketch in another feature, and its diameter is also 10 inches. If I want them both to be linked together, so if I change this, that changes, if I change that, this changes, and so on, it would be good to add them both linked to a variable, let's call it diameter, for example, and set that diameter variable to 10 inches, so that in the future, if I change that diameter from 10 to like 15, both holes change as well. Okay, so I don't really have to go into the sketches or edit the features and change anything. Everything is just like that, and it just changes automatically. Okay, so this is also a good time to set the variables, because in the exam, it's actually going to list a couple of variables for you to use. So not all the dimensions will be present on the drawing. It's actually going to leave some out and put some symbols or letters for them. You can find, okay, this box is like 100 millimeters by 30 millimeters by A. And in the question, in the text part of the question, it tells you that A is equal to like 125 millimeters. Okay, in the next question, it's going to say, okay, let's change A to another value. So it's really easy to just go ahead and change A from the equations, instead of looking for, okay, where did I use A, and start searching in every sketch and every feature to edit it in that way. Okay, so this is also another thing to keep in mind. Now, we've got everything ready. We've got the materials, we've got the units, we've got the variables. Now it's start to begin designing. And any design, it has to start with, it's a 3D design, I understand, but it has to start with something 2D, with a sketch. Okay, not always, but yeah, most of the time. So it's really important to pay attention to your sketches. Make sure that these sketches are what we would call fully defined. Okay, so there are multiple ways to identify whether your sketch is fully defined or not. And we have two cases of not. We have underdefined, where you haven't given SOLIDWORKS enough information. So some parts can be in this way or that way or here or there and so on. Or it might be over-defined, where you tell SOLIDWORKS the same thing in multiple different ways. So it's like, I already know this, why are you telling me? So it gives you a warning or an error. Okay, so we don't want either of those. We want it to be fully defined. It just has as enough relations and dimensions as it needs to make sure that everything is in place. Okay, so as I said, there are multiple ways to identify whether it's a fully defined sketch or not. The first one is also from the status bar in the bottom right corner, which is to go and see the underdefined status over there. That would change to fully defined, or it would also change to over-defined in some cases. Another way is from the feature manager design tree, which is usually on the left. In this case, it's on the right, whatever. So what's the difference between sketch 1 and sketch 2? They're both sketches. This is called sketch 1, this is called sketch 2. I already know that. But look at that symbol we have right before sketch 2. Those two brackets with a minus sign in between. So that indicates that sketch 2 is underdefined and sketch 1 is fully defined. And if you had another sketch that would be over-defined, you guessed it, it would be two brackets with a plus sign in between. Okay, so plus for over-defined, minus for under-defined, and no brackets and nothing in between. That's just perfect. That's for fully defined. And that is what we want our sketches to be like. Now, if anyone here knows a third way to identify sketches, whether they're defined or not, let us know in the chat. There's actually another way to figure this out. I would love to see if anyone actually knows how we can know that, other than those two ways that I mentioned, the status bar and the feature manager design tree. Okay, let me see if anyone figured it out. A third way to identify if your sketch is fully defined or not. Okay, but while we wait for that, let's think of, why do we actually need it to be a fully defined sketch? So the idea behind a fully defined sketch is that you have given SOLIDWORKS all the needed information to know exactly where every single point and line and arc and so on is supposed to be. And if you don't give it that information, that simply means that some components can be in undesirable locations or in undesirable orientations. So it can be here, and you can just click it and drag it, and it would move with you in another location. And obviously that's not right, because you're supposed to create a design that is to be created in a certain way to have a certain shape. So if you can just click something and drag it around, that doesn't actually make it have that shape that you need. So in that case, you must add all the the relations and the dimensions as needed, so that SOLIDWORKS would actually understand where every entity is supposed to be, and to make it easier for you in the future when you come back and edit the sketch, to when you just like change a dimension, you don't get any errors, you don't get anything flying all over the place. Everything is changing as you expect it to do. Okay, that's also part of good design intent. Okay, we have an entry here in the chat. If you're in the sketch mode, you can find at the bottom next to units. Yeah, that's the one I mentioned at the beginning in the status bar. And the second one is what we can see on the screen right now, the feature manager entry. There's actually a third one, which is through the color of the sketch. So by default, fully defined sketches are black. So fully defined sketch entities, if you have a line, it's not going to be black, it's going to actually be blue, which is for underdefined. And the moment you fully define it, it's going to switch to black. If you have a point or an end point or an arc or whatever it is, a sketch entity, it's going to be underdefined blue, fully defined black. That's by default. You can change it later on in the system options if you want to. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so yeah, we've got also Temesgen in the chat saying there's a yellow warning sign for overdefined. That's correct. As I mentioned, if you give extra information that doesn't really give SOLIDWORKS any extra knowledge, it's just repeating yourself, repeating your inputs, it's just going to give you an overdefined error. Okay, so that's when it comes to sketches. Now let's go ahead and think of features. Okay, and now I want you to all sit back, relax, and take your time to consider which is the best approach to design your model in the way that would really make your design intent work for that model. So we've been talking inside of PowerPoint for quite a lot. Let's switch over to SOLIDWORKS and see how that would work. Okay, so right now inside of SOLIDWORKS, we've got these 4 different cylinders, and all of them have the exact same dimensions, but every single one of them was designed in a totally different way. Okay, so let's see your guesses. Let me know in the chat. How do you think this first one was created? Okay, what do you think? Let me know in the chat. Let's see how many you can get right. Okay, remember, every single one of them was created in a totally different method. Okay, Muhammad is saying extrude. That is indeed correct. This was created from a circle that was extruded upwards. Okay, now what about the second one? Also, everyone is mentioning extrude. Yeah, the first one was indeed extrude. Now the second one. How do you think this one was created? Okay, we've got Temesgen saying it was created through a revolve. Multiple people agree as well. That's correct. It was actually created through a rectangle. So if we do something like this, we had like a rectangle looking something like that. Okay, and then I rotated or did a revolution of that rectangle around the axis to create the circular revolve shape. Okay, so yeah, we've got 2 guys. What do you think of this third one? How do you think this third one was created? Have you guys attended this session before? You're getting everyone right. Yeah, exactly. So this was actually created with a sweep. So we've got this circle at the bottom, and we've got this line, and it just swept this circle along that line. Okay, and by the way, I don't actually have to create that circle. I can just use the line on its own. I can edit this feature. Okay, and instead of using the sketch profile, I can use the circular profile option and just enter over here the diameter, which is 10 in this case. And just like that, I've got, as you can see, the feature just created with one line. And for this sketch, I don't actually need it. I can just delete it with no problem. Oh, I think, oh yeah, because I'm using an equal relation between sketches and each other. That's fine. Let me just hide it. Okay, but remember, this is only created using this line, no circular as well. Okay, what about the last one? How do you think this last one was created? Let me see. Boundary, interesting, but no, it was not created with the boundary. Okay, Aklilu is saying a loft, and that is indeed correct. We actually created this with a circle at the bottom, circle at the top, and a loft between them. Now, if you don't believe me, here are the options. So as you can see, we've got the boss extrusion created just from a circle. We've got the revolve created just from a rectangle. We've got this sweep now just created from a line. And then this loft is created from two sketches. And we've got this 3D sketch at the bottom, at the top, and sketch other one, sketch 5 at the bottom. Now, I'm not showing you this to tell you that one of those is the best way that you should always use and so on. I'm just showing you that the same end result can be accomplished by multiple different, not just design features, but design methodologies. These are all different ways of thinking of the model. Because remember, this model is going to be defined to you in a certain way. This cylinder will probably have a diameter. So if you're doing it in the first way, you just enter that diameter as 10 directly. Same thing for here. You enter 10 as diameter in the sweep feature. Okay, so this value 10, you enter it in the sweep feature. So that's where you get it. And the loft, you also have two sketches where you can set it to be 10. But what about this one, this revolve? You actually deal with like the half of the circle, which is the radius. So in that case, you actually enter 5, not 10. So unless you want to do some like mental math or add some equations, maybe equals 10 divided by 2 or something, it's not really a straightforward one. If you want to like revise all the different dimensions you have in the print and the ones you have in design, it's not actually going to be 1-to-1. This is going to be saying 10, this is going to say 5, right? But if we, let's say, consider it in terms of the quickest one. So here we created a circle, here we created a rectangle, a lot of more things to define. Here all we needed was just a line, very, very simple. And this, we needed 2 sketches, including a 3D sketch. Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that every one of these different methods has its own pros and cons. It has its own uses where if I want this, I would do it in that way. Because let's say, for example, in the future, you would actually want this, instead of just going straight up, to actually go a bit to the side. Maybe, okay, maybe that's an edit. So which would you think is the best one in that case? You can go over here to the loft and change this 3D sketch. And instead of, let me just show my relation, instead of having like a vertical relation, just push this a bit to the side. I actually have my underdefined sketches as white. So let me just change the background to something a bit different, maybe this. Okay, so you can actually change where it actually is. And in that case, when I exit the 3D sketch, it's going to go a bit to the side. Okay, maybe you want to do it in a much easier way in the sweep. Okay, so in that case, instead of this being vertical, I can just drag it to the side. Also still going to be 10. If I want it to be overall, the like, instead of like the length of it being 10, I want it to have like a y difference of 10. That's fine. I can add the dimension in a different way. I can come ahead, and if I look at the sketch, I don't want it to be like this way. I want it to be like this way. In that case, I can also enter 10 once again. And I would end up with pretty much the same result. Obviously, I can go back again and add the angle. Okay, let's add the angle with this point. So let me grab this triad, biad, I think it's called, and then enter, let's say 60 degrees. Okay, all I just did was just selected the line, selected the endpoint. I got this biad, and I just selected one of these, maybe this one, to add the dimension width. Okay, it's a nice trick if you don't know it. And now when I go back again to the sketch, now I have, okay, not exactly the same result, but it's a result. Now, if I go back to the sweep, and instead of using the circular profile, I actually use the sketch profile, and once again use this circle, well, in that case, I actually get it looking like this. Okay, so these are all different methods to do it, but do you think I would be able to do that with the revolve easily, or with the extrusion? I mean, it's doable, but it's going to take a lot more time and effort than what is needed, right? So coming to the question we have in the chat from Mehirite, which method do I recommend or prefer? There's not one method that is just for pretty much all of them. It's like multiple cases that you would see yourself in, and you would see, okay, in this case, I want like the quickest method, or I would want the most robust one that would never give me errors, or maybe I would want the one that is like easier to edit in the future, and so on. So it all comes down to what you find most suitable for the case that you're designing. Okay, there is no one size fit all, or it's just like every design has multiple different ways to create it, and it's up to you as a designer who understands design methodology to figure out the best way to create that design. Okay. Okay, let's get back to our presentation. And okay, we talked about how to create different things and to take our times. You know what? I actually miss being inside of SOLIDWORKS. Let's go back again to SOLIDWORKS and check out something. Let's have a quick exercise. So here's a question, okay? And by the way, this question is way worse than what you would get in a real exam. In the exam, it would be much better written and formatted, and it's also going to, it's not going to give you any room for error or interpretation, unlike this one. But let's just go with it. It tells us to create a block that's 100 by 100 by 20, and it has a 15 millimeter through hole. It's located at the third of the block's width and the fifth of its height. Okay, and it tells you that the units is in millimeters, grams, and seconds, and it doesn't really mention the material and stuff, so we're not going to consider that for now. Okay, let's go back again to SOLIDWORKS. Let's create a new part, and now let's consider how we can create something like this. So as a designer, I've realized that I can go ahead and create a sketch, but then I had to finish the sketch and then go ahead and select a feature. What I've realized over the years is that if I start by a feature that actually requires a sketch, it's actually going to prompt me to sketch. But the cool thing here is when I finish and I exit the sketch, it's going to take me directly back to the feature I started with, in this case, the boss extrusion. So it's going to save me a couple of clicks. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start creating. My cursor is already near to the origin. So instead of going all the way to the top left corner and selecting the rectangle tool or something, I've got keyboard shortcuts that would enable me to quickly grab any command that I would like. And by the way, I really do like the center rectangle. By default, it's like this. It's from corners like this. And I actually changed it to be from midpoint to be like this. Okay, and there's actually a reason behind this. So when I used to create squares, I used to create a center rectangle like this, select both of these edges, and want to add an equal relation, but it actually selects this third diagonal line with it as well. So I have to deselect it and then go ahead and enter the equal relation, or I would have to do it manually. I have to select this one and then select this one and then enter the equal relation. So it was a bit of a hassle. So when I do it like this, there is no diagonal in the way. I can just select it, box select it from the corner, enter the equal relation, and there it is. And as you can see, here is the equal relation we're talking about in this case. But actually SOLIDWORKS, because I'm using SOLIDWORKS 2025, it's the latest and greatest edition, I actually have a better solution. So SOLIDWORKS offers you this. This is a rectangle, as we all know. If I hit Shift in my keyboard, it turns into a square. Okay, so just like that, I can now just create a square. And not just that I have now a square, but it's also it's got all the different relations and everything to make it fixed as a square forever. Okay, so if I try to increase the width, it's going to increase the height as well, and so on. Now all I have to do is just start entering my dimensions. Also, I have the smart dimension tool in my keyboard shortcuts, so I can go straight ahead, enter 100, and just like that, I've got a fully defined sketch. As you can see, it's now all black. Now it's time to enter the hole, the through hole. So I also have a keyboard shortcut for the circle. So I'm just going to create a circle, go back again to the dimension. You see how quickly it is. I don't have to mouse all over the place or anything. And then here's the 15 millimeters of diameter. Now comes the hard part. How to put this somewhere like over maybe or something. So that's the third of the width and the fifth of the height. Let's do it in multiple ways and discuss them one by one. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is equations. Okay, so I'm going to select this line and this point, and I'm going to come over here and create a new equation. So I want it to be this 100. So I'm just going to select 100 and then say divided by 3. Okay, so in this case, it's now 333.33. That's correct. But the thing here is, if I change this 100 to, let's say, 120, it doesn't actually follow. I would expect it to become 40, 120 divided by 3, but it doesn't, because there is no linking. I just like copy and paste it or referenced it for once. But to do a proper linking, all I have to do is just enter an equal sign before. So equals, select this one, and instead of saying 100 or 120, it's saying dimension 1 at sketch 1. It's now referencing that dimension. And now I can say divided by 3, and just like that, now it's going to be 40, as you can see over here. And I also have this symbol over here, this symbol for equations, this sigma symbol. So if I go back again to this 120 and change it back again to 100, now it's automatically going to change back again to 33.3. Okay, now let's look at another way to create like the vertical dimension. We can do it in like the same way. There are multiple ways to do it. Since we want it to be like in 5 different ways, why not do it like this? Create 5 center lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe. I mean, we're all discovering different ways. Make sure they're all vertical, make them all equals. Okay, and then select this point, select that point, and make them coincident. I mean, it's not wrong, it works, but it's not the best way. It's not really easy to fix later on. And by the way, I'm not sure if you guys know or not, but if you go over here to Tools, Sketch Tools, and then Segment, there's already a feature that creates just that. If you have like a line, or maybe you can have like an arc. Let's also try it with an arc. The segment tool, which I have over here because I use it a lot, it can automatically divide everything, whether it's a line or an arc, to multiple points or segments, just like that. So now I have this part of the line, but this part of the line, this part of the line, and so on. It's already divided as I want it. Anyways, I'm just showing you multiple ways to do it, but obviously it's up to you to find the best way and the most correct way when it comes to what you're trying to do. Anyways, let's go back again. Remember, I started with a boss extrusion, so when I hit exit, it's going to take me back again to the boss extrusion. I don't have to select the boss extrusion twice. And now all I have to do is just depth, I think it was 20, and call it a day. Now we've got the design ready. All I have to do is now check the mass, and here is my mass properties. So it says that it's 196.47 grams. Let me put that in the chat real quick. Okay, and now let's go back again to our presentation and make sure we've got it right. Okay, let's check. And indeed, it's 196.47 grams. I think I'm actually ready to become a certified SOLIDWORKS associate. Okay, so this was the first part of the process, the part modeling process. And you know what? I actually have another example for you. So let's say, for example, this design. How many features would you think this design is created in? Let me know in the chat. I don't really need to know what features. It's fine if you say, but let's know the least amount of features that you would be able to create it in. Okay, maybe like 5 features or 4 features, maybe 6 features. Let me know how many features is the least possible you can create it in. Some people are saying 5. I see people saying 3. Ooh, Emmanuel is saying 2. Okay, Emmanuel, please let us know in the chat how you would create something like this in 2 features. Bekalo is saying 1. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't create this in 1 feature. Also, let us know, Bekalo, in the chat how you would create something like this in 1 feature. But yeah, there is no right and wrong answer here. It's just checking to see what you guys think. So yeah, Emmanuel and Bekalo, please let us know the features. Bekalo, you're saying 1 feature. I can't imagine this being created in 1 feature. You must let us know in the chat. Okay, he replied to his only a sketch. I mean, this is a 3D model. It's not just a sketch. You have a 3D model. You can select it, you can edit it, you can modify it. It's not just a sketch. It's not a 3D sketch. Talking about the 3D model itself, definitely not something you can create with just 1 sketch. But yeah, anyways, let's see. We have Muhammad Ayman also saying 2. Because saying you can extrude the same sketch over and over. Well, not. I mean, technically you can, but you won't end up with a single solid body. So I think I know what you're talking about. It's going to be a hell of a 3D sketch, but you're not going to end up with a single solid body as we have in this case. In your case, you're going to have multiple separate solid bodies. Okay, so yeah, Muhammad Ayman also mentioned 2, which is also as low as what Emmanuel mentioned. So also let us know, Muhammad, in the chat, how how would you create it in only 2 sketches? Let me know 2 features. Let me know a bit more in depth how you would create it, because I'm really interested in how that would be done. Emmanuel is saying a boss extrusion and a cut extrusion. What do you guys think? Do you think it's doable in 2 sketches? You know what? Let's see. So this sketch was actually created in just 2. Yeah. So the first one is this one. Okay. All of this was created in 1 sketch. So here is the sketch, and then extruded, and then here's the magic. This is the second sketch, and then I created the cut extrusion for that part. Really clever, right? So here's the thing. Technically, if I want to go back and like modify this edge length, or this edge length, or this edge length, or this angle, or this radius, and so on, do you think it's going to be easy, or is it going to be hard to find out which sketch this is in and what kind of dimension this has to should be changed for this change to happen? Because remember, it's like complicated things are on top of each other, and it's not really straightforward, as opposed to like doing like this L shape at the beginning, and then this this part over here with the cutout, and then the rib or something. That makes it way easier to model and change later on. So remember, it's not always about the least number amount of features. It's not always about the quickest way. It's usually going to be the easiest way for you to edit, the most robust way where you won't find errors, stuff like that. That's what you would really be interested in when creating something like this. Okay, we saw this model and we saw how we can edit it. Now let's go ahead and go back again and see the next part of our exam. So now we finished the part creation. Now, or modeling, let's talk about the part modification. And here we have one of 2 cases. You're either going to add or remove features. You can add some new features, suppress existing features, and so on, or edit the variables variable. So if the value might be like 100, you change it to 110. It might be like 90, you change it to 80, stuff like that. And that would change the proportions of the model as you see it inside of SOLIDWORKS. Okay, ready for another modification challenge? Let's see. So let's change it and make it 150 by 200 by 30 with a 20 millimeter diameter hole that is not through this time. It's only 10 millimeters in depth, and this time is going to be located at the 10th, sorry, at the 4th of the block's width and the 4th of its height. Okay, so 150 by 200 by 30, 20 millimeters of diameter, 10 millimeters of depth, and then the 4th of the block's width and height. Okay, now let's jump back to SOLIDWORKS and see how we can edit it. Now, the thing is, because I created this and I didn't actually look at the questions, all the questions, I didn't realize that it would actually want it to change me from a square to a rectangle. So instead of just me clicking here, finding a 100 dimension, making it a different value, making it like 200, and then selecting the dimension for the height and changing it from over here to like 150, I can't do that because there is no other dimension. I made them equal by relation. So I have to go edit the sketch, delete the relation. So where's that relation? Let me see. Here it is. I have to delete the relation in order for me to be able to work with it in the future. So let's say all the things over here. You've got this one. Let's delete it. Now I can go ahead and add the vertical value, which is 150. So you see, if I actually had looked at the whole question at the beginning, it's going to save me a lot of time instead of having to enter the sketch and edit it and everything. Okay, so what about this one? It's still the same thing, still like a third of the width. I can, since it's an equation, just double click, edit it, instead of divided by 3, divide it by 4, and call it a day, right? So easy. Same thing for these lines, but except that I created them in such a way that we have all of these lines. So maybe I can like delete this middle and then make these two coincident. Maybe that would work. Yeah, it would work. Maybe an easier option is to like the one at the very bottom, because in that case we'll have to just drag this one all the way down, much easier, and so on. So multiple different ways. But anyways, it's still requiring me to enter the sketch and edit it and so on. But that's not the only thing I have to change, because let's just remember this has to be 20. Okay, and now the next step is to look at the feature. So the extrusion itself, I can just simply click here, click on this 20, change it to be a 30. That's fine. But the issue is with this through hole. This through hole, instead of being through, I need it actually to be just 10 millimeters in depth. But because it's all created in the same boss extrusion, I can't really do that without having to add another sketch or another feature. I mean, technically, I can just add an extrusion and just fill it in, but that would be so bad. So I think the correct way to create something like this is, instead of doing like that, just making sure I select the whole cuboid or the whole rectangle, and then reuse that sketch for another extruded cut, where I would just select that hole, that circle I have. Here it is. And then instead of through all, I would say I only want it to be 10 millimeters in diameter. And instead of starting from this plane, I'm going to start from this plane and go the other way around inside of the model. And just like that, I now have a 10 millimeter depth for this 20 millimeter hole. And I also have 100 by 100 by 30. Sorry, it's 150 by 200 by 30 in the whole block. Now let's check once again the mass. It's now 896.86. Let me put in the chat, as you guys can see. And now let's go back again to our presentation to check if we've got it right. And indeed, we have it right once again, 896.86. So remember, as I mentioned, these questions that I gave you, these are just examples, but they're not on par with what you would see in the real exam, because in the real exam, there's not going to be any room for interpretation. So in this case, I didn't actually mention if the hole should be from this side or from that side. I didn't mention that in the question, but the exam, it's definitely going to let you know. I didn't mention if it has to be like the third of the width from the left or from the right, if it should be the fifth of the height from the top or from the bottom. different options, different scenarios would result in different designs. So since it was vague, make sure that in the exam, ensure that, or like rest assured, it's not going to be vague. It's going to be covering pretty much everything as you would expect. Okay. Now let's move on to the next part, which is assemblies. Now, when it comes to assemblies, there are multiple things to consider. The first thing is where you place your very first component. Okay, so it all comes down to the origin. Are you using the origin that's given to you, or are you selecting your origin? Because in this case, usually the first part that is added into SOLIDWORKS to fix. And that means that wherever it goes, just fix it over there and don't question it. Okay, and that might be useful in some cases. I really don't understand those, but what I would like to do is actually create a new assembly and show you guys what I mean by this option, because I personally never set it to fix. If I scroll down a bit over here, let me just close this. I can zoom in a bit, and you're gonna find that it says here, fix and float components on insert. Would you like to fix everything, to float everything, or only fix the first component? And as I mentioned, I personally have it always to float, because if I want it to be fixed somewhere, I'm definitely going to add some mates to make it fixed there so that I can reference it in the future. But the fix mate, the fix relation, the lock mate, sorry, the fix status over here, all of these things, they're like as if you're just telling it, hey, stay where you are, don't move. And that doesn't make sense. Okay, so it's better to add parameters, add values that you can change and modify in the future to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Okay, so that's with the first thing. The second way you can manage something like this is through mates. So instead of using the lock mate, as I mentioned, it's a big no-no. Did you know that if you actually had the assembly origin aligning with one of the component origins, in only one coincident mate, you can make sure that everything is aligned perfectly, fully defined. And that's by selecting the origins as the entities for the coincident mate. So in this case, we're talking about the origin of the assembly and the origin of one of the components. And in that case, when I have origins of components set as the entities in the coincident mate, it actually has a new checkbox activated, which is align axes or align axes. In this case, it will actually make sure that the x-axis is along the x-axis, the y-axis of the first one is along the y-axis of the second one, and the z-axis of the first origin is along the z-axis of the third origin. So if I have a coordinate system, another coordinate system, it's just going to align them both together. Okay, one mate pretty much solved the three different mates that would be used instead of it. Okay, so if you have like the origin where another origin of another component is supposed to be, so the origin of the assembly and an origin of the component, you can just feel free to use this one. If not, then in that case, you might actually have to do like the faces or the planes, however it may go. Okay, next thing, mates. Remember, this is the associate level. It's just the first level of exams, so it's only going to cover standard mates. If you need to use like advanced mates or mechanical mates to solve something, that's fine, but make sure that you know that there is a solution that only needs standard mates. It's not going to use any mechanical mates. It's not going to use any advanced mates. It's not wrong to use them, but there's a simpler solution that doesn't just require them. Okay, and then the last step, which I personally prefer, is test the movement. After you create everything, just make sure that everything is working and moving as expected. Just hold the component, start dragging it around. Is everything moving correctly, or are things just flying apart or interfering with each other and so on? So that's another thing to take into consideration. Okay, once you have everything correct, your mates are correct, your movement shows you that everything is set up correctly, now put it in the final position and get the answers for the exam. Speaking of answers, now let's see what kind of answers that the exam needs from you, because the exam, it doesn't actually tell you to submit the files itself, the solid parts or solid assembly files, the CAD files. It actually asks you a couple of questions about the design that you created, where you would only be able to know these answers if you actually went ahead and created that design. Okay, so the first tool, actually both of these tools are located in the Evaluate tab, which is, it's not really that much used, but actually it's got a lot of tools that are super, super cool. So we've got the measure and the mass properties tools. So for the measure tool, all you have to do is just select a bunch of entities. Those entities could be like edges, faces, combination between both, and so on. And then what it would do is just like figure out what is the type of relation that they would like to have in that case. So for example, if I select like two parallel faces, it's going to give me the normal or perpendicular distance between them. If I select two angled faces, it's automatically going to tell me the angle between them. If I like select a line, it's going to tell me its length. If I select like a face, it's going to show me the surface area or the perimeter, and so on. So all of these things are intelligent results that you get from the measure command. But by the way, you don't actually have to go all the way to the top left corner and select the measure command, because, okay, you guessed it, inside of SOLIDWORKS you can do the same thing. You can just look at the bottom right corner in the status bar, once again the status bar, and just look at the values over there. So let's jump back into SOLIDWORKS and see an example of this. For example, here, if I just select this circular edge, it tells me over here the diameter is 20 millimeters, right? If I select this edge, it tells me, oh, the length is 150 millimeters. Okay, if I like select, say, this face and this face, okay, it's also going to tell me, okay, here is the normal distance. The normal distance in this case is 10 millimeters. Okay, so all of these different ways of it understanding what I'm doing and just showing me the information that I need is one of the best tools that I would recommend to people in the design industry. Okay, to make sure that there's an easy way to design and measure and validate all of your designs without needing to actually launch a separate tool and stuff like that. Okay, now the next thing is the mass properties, and here we're talking about getting the mass, and it's mainly based on the material. You can get the dimensions right if you've got the material wrong, but you can't get the mass right if you have the material wrong, because assuming that you've designed everything correctly, that means that the volume is correct, and then you set the material right, so you have the density correct. And we all know the famous equation where it's linking the volume, the mass, and the density together. So this is another thing to keep in mind. If you have the design right, but you have the wrong material, it's going to mess up your mass. And if you have the design right and you don't have the correct material, double check the material specified in the question. It's not always just the material, it's actually the material and also its density, just for you to double check so that you don't like get confused between like ABS and ABS PC and stuff like that. So you actually have a chance at knowing what each of those is. Okay, now let's go ahead and open the Tangex test software and see what things we have over there. Okay, let's go. Let me also close SOLIDWORKS. Okay, and now when I want to go and get the Tangex tester software, the main website for something like this is the 3D Experience Certification Center. So here it is. I'm also going to put the link in the chat. Okay, so here you can come over here, you can log in, you can download the software, stuff like that. So I've already downloaded the software, so I've got it. Let me just show it to you guys. Here it is. So here's the software. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it. So this file is like what? Very small. It's like 6.92 megabytes, like 7 megabytes or something. So very, very small. All I have to do is like double click to install. It shows me this. I have to agree. It's only going to take like 30 megabytes, so it's not really that big. And then I'm not going to run it now because I want to show you something. So what it did is it actually created a folder for me. So this folder, okay? Now, let me show you something really interesting about this part of the session. So if I open this folder, it's also on the wrong screen. I've got the exe file, which this is the one that we're going to use. I also got this library files. I'm not going to use those. These are for like the files that would make sure that the software is working as intended. So let me just run this exe file and notice something. See this log file that I got added over here. It gets added automatically, and it just captures everything you're doing on your device while you're taking the exam. So here's the software. Let's say, for example, use this, and I launch it once again. I have another log file created at the same time, at the new time and date of opening the software, and it's going to log everything I do, whether it's like logging in, starting an exam, and so on. And this is for many reasons. Most of them are for you, because let's say, for example, you have like a crash. So Tanjek's tester crashed, or like you had a lost internet connection, or your laptop died, or something like that. What proves that you actually, what would prove that you actually designed as far as you've designed in the exam, or that you were like one question away or something like that? It's this log file. So you would take that log file and send it to the certification team in order for them to help you understand what really happened to you. So that's one thing to note. Anyway, so if you don't have an exam or an account already, you can create an account over here. And I really, really strongly advise you guys to activate this one, list in online directory of certified users. Okay, make sure you check this one, and I'm going to mention why in just a bit. I already have one, so let me just log in. Let me come over here. Oops, yep. And look the other way while I type in my password, because I don't want anyone to steal it. And just like that, I'm now inside. So this is the same software for multiple brands of exams. I've got exams here for DraftSite. I've got exams here for Delmia. I've got exams here for SolidWorks, and so on. So you can just scroll down to the exam that you want to take, click on it, and then select the language and just start the exam. It's going to start right away. Obviously, I'm not going to do this right in front of you, but yeah, now you can take the exam. Now, the real question is, what's next? What comes after I take an exam? And this is where we go back again to this website where I've logged in. And here, we saw how we can download the software. Let's see the other tab. So under my account here, you'd find a list of all the certifications that you've got. Over here, I've got my CSWA, as you can see. You know what, let me just reset the zoom. Okay, maybe even make it a bit bigger. So I've got the design of, this is the old design of the exam, of the certificate. But what's important is this certificate ID, okay, and this QR code. I can obviously download the certificate, download the badges, stuff like that. But this QR code and these IDs are actually listed over here in the certificate. So here's the ID and here's the badge, the QR code. Okay, so what these are used for is validation. If anyone scan this QR code right now, it's actually going to take you to a website where it says, we verify that this exam was taken by Yahya Khedr on this day, and you are checking it on this day. Okay, so I can also do this for anyone. I can just come over here, enter anyone's certificate ID, and just check for its validity. Make sure that it's actually a real certificate, and yeah, it's actually valid. It's taken by Yahya T Khedr. It's a CSWA exam. It was issued on the 23rd of July 2020. Oh, it's actually 3 days away from being the 5-year anniversary. That's cool. And yeah, so it's you're validating it today, the 20th of 7th, 2025. So this is another way to make sure that whatever certification you see is actually legit. Okay. You can also come over here. Oh, and this is the best thing ever. This is the user directory. Okay. And here, this is pretty much the best thing of this 3D Experience Certification Center. So remember that option that I mentioned where you have to be listed in the user directory, where this is where it shows, because if you don't accept that, if you don't check it, you won't be shown in this user directory. So if I come over here to the certifications, let's say I want to see how many certified SOLIDWORKS associates are there worldwide. Remember, we're talking about 8 million SOLIDWORKS users. We only have 626,000 CSWAs or certified SOLIDWORKS associates. So that's a massive difference in number. Yeah. So we're talking once again about this out of 8 million. That's like 8 with 6 zeros. We're talking about like what, 7% of the global community of SOLIDWORKS users, right? So yeah, you're now being a CSWA means that you are part of like the top 8 or 7% of SOLIDWORKS users. Now I can filter by country. I can go and see, okay, what different countries there are. Okay, and select a country. I can do something like, let's say Egypt. Here's Egypt, for example. So as you can see, in Egypt, we have like 4,600 certified SOLIDWORKS associates, but only 2,500 are listed in this directory. Okay, let's check Ethiopia. So here is Ethiopia. We've got 32 certified SOLIDWORKS associates, only 12 are here. So there's 20 certified associates that are not showcasing their skill and their level to the whole world, but only these guys are over here. So I think we've got some of our attendees over here. Okay, we've got people who have taken like the additive manufacturing exam, the additive manufacturing and CSWA, and so on. We've got multiple students over here. We also have someone who took the electrical and additive manufacturing. And I've got their LinkedIn, their Twitter. I can reach out to them. I can ask them, hey, would you like to work for us or collaborate on a project or something like that? Maybe would you like to present for a user group? And trust me, there are companies that would come over here and say, okay, let's go to the CSWP. Only 269,000 worldwide. We're now talking about an even more competitive exam. That's like 3.5% of the whole world of SOLIDWORKS users, of the 8 million. There are 7 certified professionals in Ethiopia, but none are listed in this directory. They are missing out on showcasing their skills and their expertise to the whole world, right? And then if you go all the way to the expert level, there's only 8,380 certified SOLIDWORKS experts worldwide. Out of 8 million, that's like 0.1% of SOLIDWORKS users. So that's the best of the best, right? I mean, even in Egypt, if I go Egypt and show how many experts we have here, we've got 175, only 136 are visible. So we're talking about like a big percentage is not showing themselves to the whole world. Only like 86% is listed here, and the remaining 14% is just like shy or something and not showing their skills to the whole world, right? So we can search for them by city, by company, whatever, and we can go ahead and see, okay, this guy called Yahya Khedr, I have no idea who he is, but he seems like a good guy. He took his certificate like 4 years ago. I can see his LinkedIn. I can reach out to him. I can contact him, and I can ask him to work for us maybe, or work with me on a project. Maybe I can ask him a question and so on. Maybe if he's near me, I can ask to learn from him. So it's a very nice way to collaborate and network with other people worldwide throughout this user directory. Okay, so yeah, this is another one of the main benefits that you would find from listing yourself on the certified SOLIDWORKS users directory here. If you already have an account but you're not listed, you forgot to check that checkbox, it's fine. You can come over here to your account and then all the way over here to your settings, and then over here, as you can see, let me just zoom in. There it is. So you have list in online directory. No, it's not this one. Yeah, this one. So yeah, that doesn't look cool. Yeah, this is better. So list in online directory. Make sure it's actually set to be yes, 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 yes. I didn't like that one. Okay. Yeah, maybe like this. Okay, so make sure you actually list yourself here, because that's the best way you can showcase yourself to the whole world. Okay, and yeah, here's another one. Okay, so remember, by the way, the account you have over here. So if I come over here and log out and create a new account, that's going to be the exact same account that I use in the Tangex tester software that we downloaded from here. They're both the same thing. The only difference is that if you create an account over here, you could get an email, and I think that email will take like a couple of hours to get to you, and with a link to validate your account, and then you're good to go. So I would prefer if you actually do it from here, just to make sure that you've got all the sequence ready, and you can check that option as well. Okay, we seem to have a question here from Beamlack. He's saying, is there an option for changing the email on the virtual tester account? Some of us students have student emails that will expire in a few months. Yeah, the exact same thing. So it's good that I mentioned it over here. So go to your account, go to your settings, change this email. You see this email? Just click on it and change it to whatever email you want. Okay, update information, and you are good to go. So you just have to change this and then update your information, and you're good to go. And that is going to update your email for yourself. Okay, it's just going to change the login email or the email that your account is linked to. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope that answers your question, Beamlack, sorry, my bad. Okay, now let's get back to SOLIDWORKS and see what else we can do. So we saw how we could use the virtual tester software, and how when we take the exam, how the whole situation is governed. And after that, you can go to the Field Experience virtual tester website or the Field Experience Certification Center to download your certification, to get more information, validate, check the user directory, stuff like that. So now let's go on with the last part of today's session, which is resources. And I'm sure this is the part most of you are waiting for. Okay, so there are many resources that offer these exams. My list here is only going to talk about free resources. None of these resources are going to be paid resources. All of them are only free resources. Okay, so I would personally prefer if you would use any of those. It is totally up to you, because I don't get anything out of it. But these are the ones that I've used, and I would hate to see someone paying money to get something when they could actually get it for free, right? So the first thing is the built-in tutorials inside of SOLIDWORKS. If you just log in, if you just load SOLIDWORKS from the help menu, and you can go to tutorials, you're gonna find the built-in tutorials that come with SOLIDWORKS. It's just so cool, because you know what? Actually, let me show you. So here's SOLIDWORKS. I go to the help menu. The underrated tutorials, I've actually renamed them. Excuse me, why are you acting a bit weird? Let me just do this. It's not supposed to do that, my bad. Anyways, so we've got the tutorials. Let me just close this part that we created. And let's say, for example, I want to take a lesson on fillets, right? So I can go ahead and follow along and create that body, and then go ahead and start the lesson. Or I can just click here, and it would give me the example file that I would apply the tutorial on. So I don't actually have to create it, and that would save me a lot of time. So it's cool that it's offline, it's free, it comes with SOLIDWORKS, it has all the part or example files included with it. And the best thing is, let's say I'm still a very beginner, and it tells click fillet on the features tab. I can't really find where the fillet is. You know what? I can just click on this. Look what it did. It just highlighted it inside of SOLIDWORKS. That's so cool. I can go ahead to something else. Let's find another feature that would be a bit harder for me. Yeah, schedule the edges. If I click on this, look at what happens. Here are my hands. It just added a toolbar or like a menu, and showed me the schedule the edges option. Okay, so yeah, it just created this for me where I can put it anyway. It's way too long. Oh my god. Okay, let me just close this and go back again. I can go back to the main tutorials and see, okay, maybe I want something about advanced techniques. Okay, maybe things about equations, for example. So it would tell me, okay, click here to like open the parts. Okay, it's also going to take me directly to the parts, as you can see over here. Okay, and let's say, for example, I also can't find this. If I just click it, not doing anything. It just automatically open it for me. If I click like equations, still not doing anything. It's also going to go ahead and find equations for me in the tabs. Okay, so it's like this linking between SOLIDWORKS and these tutorials is so cool that it makes it way easier for a SOLIDWORKS user to understand and learn the software while he's going through with the content. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the next one, which is My SOLIDWORKS. Okay, so My SOLIDWORKS is, as it says here, your place for all things. It's like the go-to place for anything SOLIDWORKS related. And you can come here and find things like blogs. You can find questions in the user forum. You can find things like CAD models. I can actually search for CAD models. I don't have to go to GrabCAD or Thingiverse or anything like that. I've got pretty much everything here. I've got things about like the user group network, career resources for SOLIDWORKS, 3D experience SOLIDWORKS for makers, the user forum. All of these things are just listed over here. And this is once again the one like go-to place for anything that is related to SOLIDWORKS. Let's say, for example, I want to search for training. So I can go over here, enter CSWA, and it's going to list all the training that I have for that it has for CSWA. Let's say maybe you want learning paths, okay, and it has like guest access level and standard access level. Guest access level is for anyone who just created an account, a free account. You create an account, you can access that, okay. When we talk about the standard access level, we're now talking about people who have a 3D experience ID or a SOLIDWORKS ID that's linked to a commercial seat of SOLIDWORKS. So you're actually working at a company and you have an account that's linked to your commercial seat of SOLIDWORKS. In that case, you also have a standard account on My SOLIDWORKS. So that is going to enable you to have better exam courses and practice exercises to take. So for example, if we look at this CSWA exam preparation course, we're going to notice that it's going to cover pretty much all the main topics that are listed on the CSWA exam webpage that the exam is going to test you on. So things from starting a sketch and stuff like that, all the way to bosses and revolves and fillets, design intent, all these different things, patterns and stuff, all the way to assemblies, adding materials, creating reference, geometry, and so on. So all of these are different videos that you can go through, 44 to be exact, and you can take them and start learning and preparing for an exam. Once again, it doesn't have to be just training. You can even search the forum. I can search the forum for anyone asking about a question about the CSWA, and these are all questions about the CSWA. People are asking about CSWA simulation, maybe like an error, prerequisites not met, things like that. And any question, if someone here passed the CSWA, you can go and congratulate them. Someone's asking like, is the CSWA exam suitable for 3D experience SOLIDWORKS for makers? You all obviously all know, because we already covered this earlier in the session. Now the CAD design is for all the SOLIDWORKS exams, regardless of all the SOLIDWORKS editions, regardless of whether it's desktop or 3D experience SOLIDWORKS. You can even like search for like things like if I go to everything, I can go like to the blogs, for example. Okay. And find like blog posts and stuff like that. So it's really a cool place to check out My SOLIDWORKS, not just for the content, but also for the different things it lists as well, other than training content. I can even search for myself, and hey, there's a couple of blog posts over here about me. So yeah, that would be cool. If you're interested in checking those out, even some like YouTube playlists, some YouTube videos. Hey, my journey to the search is here as well. I was actually going to mention this right away because it's all the way down here in this, but let's take it one by one. So now let's talk about the sample exam. Now, the sample exam is basically it's like a smaller version or an easier version of the real exam that you would take when you take the CSWA exam. It's like a simpler, shorter version it's made to make you have a better idea of what the real exam is going to be like. So here it is. This is the PDF. Remember, we can download it from solidworks.com/CSWA. So it tells you at the beginning, okay, how many questions it is, how many points each question is, stuff like that, how to download, and start the exam. We also showed that. And then here's the exam itself. So these are the questions and the choices to select the choices. And then here's the design. And as you can see over here, you've got like this icon to show you that, hey, this is like a tangent relation. Here's a variable b. So I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to expect you to use equations, because here in the question tells you the unit system, millimeter grams per second. The origin, in this case, is arbitrary. The material is this, and A, B, and C here are the values. Change the model and do find the new results. Okay, so at the very end, you're gonna find the assembly part of the sample exam, and then all the way at the very end, you're gonna find the answer key, which provides you with answers to all of these sample questions. I really advise you guys to take this, because it's going to give you a better understanding of where you are in terms of preparation. Are you ready or not? If you're not, which are the areas that you need to prepare on? And at the very end of this PDF, you've got some hints, tips, and tricks. You've also got some frequently asked questions. So in this FAQ, things like what would happen if the computer crashes, or what would happen if my internet connection fails, stuff like that. So it's a good read to check out. Once again, solidworks.com/CSWA. Okay, now the next one, which is the sample practice problems. So if I go over here, here are the practice problems. I'm also going to link in the chat. Okay, and what this has, you can download this file, and you're going to find a lot of models, like drawings of models that you can create and test yourself. These models are ranging in different levels of like difficulty, so that for a beginner and then a more advanced user and so on, all the way till you become like ready to take the real CSWA exam. So I would really advise you to take that exam and to take these practice problems and go through them, because they would really make you a better designer in terms of understanding the design intent and having like more hands-on practice when it comes to SolidWorks. Okay, and last but not least, we have the journey to the certs. Okay, journey to the CSWA is one of many articles that I've wrote over the years. So here's the link. I'm also going to put it in the chat as well. So I've got like an article for pretty much every exam in the CAM design lineup or the mechanical design lineup. So associate, professional, and expert in mechanical design or CAD design. Also all the professional advanced exams. We're talking about the surfacing, the weldments, sheet metal, the mold making, and the drawings. So let's say, for example, the CSWA exam. If you click on that link, it's going to take you to the article that's specifically for the CSWA exam. So if you like reading rather than videos, so it's got like pretty much the same content that we presented, but in written format, maybe slightly different. We've got some tips and tricks every now and then, and you can go through it and understand a bit more about what the exam is about. And there's also, and this is something really cool, you can actually take the sample exam for the CSWA inside the virtual tester environment. So when you do that, you actually have, you see this sample exam, okay, it's shown like this in the virtual tester when you log in, and it says that it's a free exam, which makes sense because it's a sample. You don't get a certificate when you finish it, but it's the same one as the PDF, but it's just in the exam setting where you've got the timer, you've got the setup, you've got everything. So it's a better way for you to make sure that you've got what it takes to sit for the real exam and prepare yourself for the real exam in that case. Okay, so yeah, I would really advise you guys to take the sample exam and give that a shot. Okay, now with that being said, I know we spent a bit more time today, but we are now open for the Q&A. I'm going to check this chat for questions. I saw a couple of questions at the very end. I'm going to check those in a moment. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat as well. And then there's also a Q&A part. Okay, so I'm going to start with the ones in the chat, but please put your questions in the Q&A section. Okay, and just in case, if you didn't get to share your questions with me today, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I've got an open profile, so anyone can reach out to me, even if they're not a connection. Just send me a message. Tell me, hey, I was in today's session with you with the Addis Ababa SolidWorks user group, and I have this question, or I would love to learn more about this or that whatever it may be. I also put the link in the chat. And it doesn't have to be a question. I mean, if any of you guys today took the CSWA exam and passed it, I would love for you guys to let me know. So post it on LinkedIn. Make sure to mention me, tag the user group leaders and co-leaders as well, Johannes and Mikalu. So make sure to spread the news about your certification, and we would be really, really happy for you. With that being said, I'm now going to check the chat real quick and then go over to the Q&A section. Okay, so yeah, there was this question from Bimlak. We mentioned how to change the email. He also mentioned how would we get vouchers? Is it something a SOLIDWORKS Champions enjoy? Not really. It's not really something that is just for SOLIDWORKS Champions. Anyone can get a SOLIDWORKS voucher for an exam. There are multiple ways actually to get vouchers. So if you work for a company that's on active subscription of SOLIDWORKS, every license of SOLIDWORKS that have gets 3 free vouchers per semester, every 6 months. So in a year, they get 6 free exams, exam vouchers for every license of SOLIDWORKS they have. If they have like 10 SOLIDWORKS licenses, that means in 1 year, they would get 60 free exam vouchers. Okay, so that's if you're working for a commercial company that has a commercial license of SOLIDWORKS that's on subscription. If you if you're still a student and your university or your school is an academic certification provider, so they have signed up for that program with SOLIDWORKS, they offer their students SOLIDWORKS licenses, and they can also offer them exams for free. So both of these would offer you pretty much most of the exams, if not all of them, except for the expert level exams. Those don't have vouchers because of this very high prestigious, high value exam. And if neither of those apply to you, if you purchase a SOLIDWORKS Student Edition or SOLIDWORKS Makers Edition, you would actually get a CSWA and CSWP voucher for free. And by the way, if you're interested, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I've got a voucher, like a discount code for both the Makers Edition of SOLIDWORKS and the Student Edition of SOLIDWORKS, if you're still a student or if you're a maker. So so both of them are, I think, like at $50 or $60 per year. If you want an even more discount than that, feel free to reach out to me, and I would happily give you a discount on that as well. Okay, but once again, those come with free vouchers for the CSWA and CSWP. If none of that applies to you, so in that case, there are many events that are done in the community that would offer vouchers. It's not usually something they would do every single day, but it's something that happens every now and then. Throughout like the past 4 or 5 months, I think there was 3 separate events where vouchers were given. I'm talking about worldwide events, not like specific country-specific events. So it's good to keep an eye out for these events. Things like SWUGAA, the SOLIDWORKS largest user group meeting ever. Events like Iron SWUG or Egypt SWUG, for example, which was a tour of user group meetings here in Egypt, stuff like that. Maybe like events like 3D Experience World. If you attend 3D Experience World, you can get free exams as well. I think it was like you take 2 exams at 3D Experience World, and you can take like a couple of other exams after you come home. So it's a really cool opportunity for you to get certified as well. These are all different ways for you to get certified. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. I don't see any questions in the Q&A part, in the Q&A section. So I'm going to assume that we've got pretty much all of the questions covered. I'm going to give you guys a couple of more minutes, like a minute or 2 as well. But once again, okay, we've got a question. So Emmanuel is saying, which certification do you prefer for a person interested in machine manufacturing? Okay, so understand this. There is the associate level in mechanical design or CAD design, and there's also the professional level in in mechanical design or CAD design. The difference, or the main difference, is the seniority, or the experience, or the proficiency of your SOLIDWORKS skills. So if you have the opportunity to go for the CSWP in mechanical design or in CAD design, that would be better, because it not only tests your skills in modeling, but also in editing models, editing other people's models, making advanced assemblies using intricate design commands, and the main thing is using configurations and design tables as well. So these are all skills that are really important for someone working in machine manufacturing, because I would expect you to make the same parts multiple times with slight modifications. That would be a cool use case for configurations. You would also have like assemblies that are more complex than what we'd cover in the CSWA exam. So that's also something to consider. And then it depends on the manufacturing methods that you design in. So if you're interested in like designing with sheet metal, then you can take the professional advanced sheet metal exam. If you're interested in weldments, then you can take the weldment exam. If you do a lot of drawings, there's also an exam for drawing tools, and so on. So you can find the area of specialty that you're interested in and that your work field requires, and then you can see if there's an exam for SOLIDWORKS in that area, and you can take that one as well. Okay, so I hope that covered Emmanuel's question. Yeah, always, it's a pleasure. So once again, if there's no more questions for me right now, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Once again, it doesn't have to be a question. Just let me know if you've got any feedback for this session, if you enjoyed it, if you didn't. I'm pretty sure most of you, I hope, enjoyed the session. And with that being said, this was a really nice opportunity for me to spend some time with you guys. And I'm really looking forward to future user group meetings in Ethiopia in general and with Addis Ababa specifically.
I think we'll have to wrap it up for today, and we appreciate Yahya for giving us an amazing time, and thank you all for coming and participating in these tips, and we will have future tips from Yahya in the future, so stay tuned. For all of you in Addis Ababa, we will have the recording in the Telegram group, so you can share it to people that haven't made it today. And there will be a competition within a month, so stay tuned for that too. And I appreciate you again, Yahya. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Makula. I was really happy to join you guys today. And once again, I'm looking forward to future sessions by your user group in the future.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.